Tonight, resident doctors suspend nationwide industrial action after 10 days following discussions with the federal government. People's Democratic Party vows return to power in 2023 as delegates elect party executives. Exercise ends in chaos in Kaduna. No more empty promises, River State Governor Nyesom Wike warns politicians as says citizens are fed up with unfulfilled expectations. And Prince Charles pays tribute to his father as family fixes April the 17th for burial of the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip. Plus, business and sports.
On business news tonight, federal government sets up 6 regional mining plants across the country to harness economic potential of states.
Days of its nationwide strike, the leadership of the National Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, has suspended the action following a meeting with its executives today to review discussions with the federal government yesterday. At the end of the dialogue between both parties last night, the resident doctors and the government representatives said they were satisfied with the resolutions reached, although they failed to make any definite statement on the strike action. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, monitored the meeting and reports how it all transpired yesterday.
It's been 9 days since resident doctors embarked on a nationwide industrial action, and representatives of the federal government are meeting with them to reconcile the differences. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Senator Chris Ngige, is leading the federal government's team made up of the Health Ministry, Office of the Accountant General, Ministry of Budget and Planning, among others, with the Nigerian Medical Association spearheading the team from the National Association of Resident Doctors. After settling in, the government delegation notes with concern the impact of the industrial action by the doctors and the citizenry.
When medical people strike, whether they are NMA or Mendicant or NAD or Nurses and Midwives Association, physiotherapists, lab technologists, and we lose lives, we cannot bring that life back. That is the difference. That is also why your pay structure is different.
It's my desire, and I believe the desire of not just this house, in the entire nation, that this strike action be put behind us. Now. That's the desire. And the reasons are obvious.
The meeting then goes into a closed-door session.
Gentlemen of the press.
After about 6 hours, journalists return to the meeting, and the Minister of Labour and Employment gives a rundown of the resolutions reached at the meeting.
As in our MOA1, they tackled very vigorously. Budget Office of the Federation, we were given 2 weeks, and we now have 1 week left. There's a promise from also the Accountant General that once this is computed and sent, they will effect the payment. So we also gave timeline for all this, and we say that they should conclude all within 3 weeks.
Thank you.
However, the responses from NAD and NMA give no clarity on the federal government's expectation.
For the past almost 8 hours, we have had a very fruitful deliberation, and me and the National Officers Committee will take this back to our members with the hope of calling off the strike.
I want to appeal to the different stakeholders, the different departments who are involved in meeting up these demands, who are involved in meeting up the timeline, to consider the Nigerian patients and do so as quick as possible. I also want to appeal to NAD to look at the effort so far on the government side and also do the needful.
Speaking to journalists, NAD's president buttresses the association's position.
The essence of us calling for the strike is for us to try and make better the health system.
At the end of the day, Nigerians who are feeling the impact of the industrial action can only hope that the issues are resolved this time once and for all. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Politics now. The Northwest Zonal Congress of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, ended in chaos in Kaduna State. The Congress, which was attended by some PDP leaders, including the former governor of Kano State, Rabiu Kwankwaso, and the Sokoto State Governor, Aminu Tambuwal, was disrupted by thugs. Ballot papers and other voting materials were destroyed in the process as the delegates from the 7 states of the Northwest voted to elect the zonal chairman of the party and other executives. It was gathered that there are 2 top contenders for the post of zonal chairman from Kano State who are supported by 2 party leaders. The chairman of the media subcommittee of the Congress, Mr. Abdulrahman Usman, said with the chaos caused by the delegates from Kano State, the party leaders will go back to the drawing board to address all pending issues.
It was clear to everybody that the problem arose out of disagreements amongst the delegates from a single state out of the 7 states that make up the Northwest Zone of the PDP. That is specifically, so to say, Kano State. And in order to avoid breakdown of public peace, law and order, and in order to manage the situation properly as it should be, we felt it is better to postpone the Congress so that our critical stakeholders can go back to the drawing board and sort out issues. And I believe we are going to do that very soon. As you know, the PDP is the hallmark of democracy in Nigeria, you like it or not. Because as you can see, if we look at historically, we have had lesser number of court cases from congresses organized by the PDP, and we are never afraid to do it right.
Although the 2023 general elections are still about 2 years away, the countdown has begun for different political parties in the country. For the opposition People's Democratic Party, there's no better time than now to put its house in order as it aims to reclaim the mantle of leadership at the federal level. At the party's North Central Zonal Congress held in Makurdi, the Benue State capital today, prominent party leaders called for a united front and democratic values amongst the party members. The PDP leaders expressed hope that Nigerians would have a better alternative in the PDP come 2023.
Delegates from the 6 North Central states of Benue, Nasarawa, Kogi, Plateau, Niger, Kwara, as well as the Federal Capital Territory, converged on the Aparaku Stadium, Makurdi, the Benue State capital, for the 2021 PDP North Central Elective Congress to elect new leaders for the zone. Voting gets underway with former presidents of the Senate, David Mark, Eochia Ayu, Bukola Saraki, and the governors of Benue State, Samuel Otom, casting their ballots. A major attraction at the Congress is the return of Professor Jerry Gana and others to the PDP.
We considered and resolved that it is better for us to gather back into the PDP, the party of purpose, the party of focus, the party of discipline, the party of grace, the party that has all the potentials to be able to move Nigeria forward.
Former President of the Senate, Mr. David Mark, and his successor, Dr. Bukola Saraki, say the North Central must do all it takes to provide the much-needed leadership that the nation needs because the APC has failed to deliver.
PDP, change the change. All the states in North Central Zone, go and sing this song, which everybody on the street is singing now. They want to change the state. They want to change the change, and PDP is the vehicle to be used to change the change.
It is time for us to allow others to join Benue State from Plateau, Nasarawa, Niger, Kwara, Kogi, and I'm sure living here today, all of our delegates will go back and go and recover our mandate.
Governor Samuel Otom tells the gathering that since the All Progressives Congress has failed the nation, the PDP must leverage on that to get back to power. But for that to happen, the party needs to operate on the principles of fairness, equity and justice.
We have all resolved that we will not go back to the mistakes of 2015 and 2019. There is not going to be any Godfather again. There is not going to be any suppression of the people's will. There is not going to be imposition of candidates again. The decision of the people will definitely prevail, and that is what the PDP governors of Nigeria are standing for.
At the end of the exercise, the incumbent zonal chairman, Mr. Shan Theophilus Dakar, and his executive committee were given the mandate to lead the PDP in the North Central Zone.
Still talking politics, the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, is warning politicians against making bogus promises during the elections, saying that citizens are fed up with empty promises. According to him, no politician may be able to manipulate election results, not even with the use of security personnel, as the citizens have become more aware and will resist electoral fraud. Governor Wike was speaking in Bori, the headquarters of Kana local government area, during the PDP campaign rally for the April 17th local government election, where the party also received some new members.
Time has come. When you make a promise to the people, you must fulfill the promise. So you have to be careful of the promises you make. Time has come that we can no longer listen to empty promises of politicians, like what the ruling party is doing today. When they came in 2015, they told us this, that naira and dollar will be equal, 1 naira to $1. Today, what is the equivalent? 500 naira to $1. They said they will create jobs. Nigeria has the highest unemployment rate in Africa, 33%. Why would there not be crisis? They say when they come, they will make sure the insurgency will be stopped. See what we are passing through today in this country. Every day, killing upon killing. Nigeria is quite aware now. The consciousness of Nigeria, it will be difficult. It will be difficult now for you to use security agencies to manipulate election.
In part two, after the break, Mietiala Cattle Breeders Association and Arewa Consultative Forum seek settlement of pastoralists in grazing reserves to end the farmer-herder crisis. If you're just joining us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Resident doctors suspend nationwide industrial action after 10 days following discussions with the federal government. People's Democratic Party vows return to power in 2023 as delegates elect party executives. Exercise ends in chaos in Kaduna. No more empty promises, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike warns politicians, says citizens are fed up with unfulfilled expectations. And Prince Charles pays tribute to his father as family fixes April the 17th for burial of the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, says it can do a lot more for state governments in ensuring that only standard products get to consumers. The Director General of the agency, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, is also asking for the inclusion in task forces, which, according to her, will enable the agency effectively deliver on its mandate. She was speaking during a courtesy call at the Government House in Benin City, the Edo State capital.
Our mandate is to control the importation, exportation, manufacture, distribution, advertisement, sale, and use of 7 regulated products, of which drugs, foods, wines and beverages, chemicals are included. And knowing the ubiquitous nature of the way drugs and foods are handled in Nigeria, we have made it a priority to mitigate unwholesome foods, unwholesome drinks, falsified substandard medicines from getting to our people. The Federal Task Force is domiciled in NAFDAC, and we have the legal framework, C-34, that gives NAFDAC the authority through that Federal Task Force to ensure that our people's health is safeguarded.
On his part, the Edo State Governor, Mr. Godwin Obaseki, appealed to NAFDAC to fast-track the issuance of operating licenses to companies in order to promote the ease of doing business in the state.
Quite a lot of our citizens who are into manufacturing of food and related drug items and the items you control or you regulate have been suffering. The amount of time it takes them to get approvals from you is, has put them in very difficult situations. So if for nothing else, just having you close by, having you in the States will help reduce their costs of interacting with you and also the speed. So it is in our interest to make sure that you are here. We are hoping that your office, I don't know the design, will have a complement of a full laboratory, so that we not, you also help bring in that investment into the state, so that if we need to do tests outside of what you regulate, that facility will be available. So if you can do that for us, it would really be appreciated.
As Nigerians continue to seek ways of ending the herder and farmers crisis, the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria and the Arewa Consultative Forum are calling on the federal government to consider the option of grazing reserves. They believe that by reactivating the over 400 grazing reserves in the northern region and other parts of the country, there will be no need for herders to move around with their cattle. The groups made their position known at a meeting in Kaduna State, where they agreed that the movement has contributed largely to the security challenges in the country.
The conflicts between herders and farmers in the northern region and some states in the southern parts of the country have led to loss of lives, with many people displaced and property worth millions of naira destroyed. Beyond the conflict is also the issue of cattle rustling, kidnapping and banditry, which has often been linked to criminal herders. This meeting between the leadership of the Arewa Consultative Forum and Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria to find a solution to the security challenges confronting the northern region and, by extension, the country at large.
Our statistics shows us that
The National Secretary of Miyetti Allah believes the huge landmass of over 400 grazing reserves in the north alone and 3 others in the southern part of the country, measuring about 5 million hectares, is big enough to settle the pastoralists in order to stop the incessant clashes between them and farmers.
We have a land ready in our hand for the settlement of the pastoralists. We have over 400 grazing reserves in the northern part of the country, in the 19 states of the northern part of the country, with only 3 in the southwestern part of states of Oyo and Ogun. Apart from those 3, only over 400 grazing reserves we have allocated in the northern part of the country. All put together covers an area of about 5 million hectares. If these things can be utilized, it's enough to settle this landless people there. Only landless society we have in Nigeria today.
Noting the underlying causes of insecurity in the north to include poverty and unemployment, the chairman of the Arewa Consultative Forum and the spokesman throw their support behind Governor Nasir El-Rufai's position by kicking against the payment of ransom to bandits.
The forum is completely against payment of ransom. You go and hold a citizen and lock him up or carry him to a forest where he's helpless, and you put a price tag on his name that they must bring this money within a short time before he's released. It's not, we don't agree with such tactics. No religion, even in the whole of the North, whether Islam or Christianity or African religion, accepts this kind of thing. It's against the laws of God.
The Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association believes that making the grazing reserves attractive with water and other basic amenities such as schools will enable the Fulani pastoralists settle in one place, thereby reducing the incessant herders and farmers' conflict in the country.
Residents of the nation's capital are urging the Federal Capital Territory Administration to address the unending traffic situation in Abuja and satellite towns. The Federal Road Safety Corps wants the administration to actualize the Abuja Light Rail as well as the rapid bus transit systems as part of measures to improve the situation.
Abuja city centre is renowned for its good road network as motorists travel with ease within the city. The story is, however, very different for residents in some of the satellite towns who must find their ways to the city centre to work every weekday. A higher population of Abuja residents live in the satellite towns, and this explains the heavy traffic leading into the city centre every morning and exiting the city every evening, especially on working days.
The car is much. It's not as if the way it is before, you understand? And our own thinking is that people are no longer get job anymore again. Mostly people join transportation. You understand? Transportation is like man business now, that everybody come out and doing the transportation work now. So because of that, I think we have much cars in Abuja than before.
They prepare roadside than inside park. So they find it very difficult. So what can we do? We don't have anything doing else than the driving. So we have to pick them in the road. Everywhere there we go. That's what causes the traffic, I think.
The FRSC believes more can be done to address the traffic congestion in the nation's capital.
Look at the rush hour in the morning, rush hour in the evening, and you discover that every other businesses, government businesses, private businesses, one-man businesses, they head from Kubwa to town, from Nyanyakaro to town, from the airport road to town, and then when work is over, everybody moves out. So if we do not find a way to spread business activity, maybe government considering moving some government offices to satellite towns, getting the satellite towns properly developed with every facilities, shopping malls, schools, whatever it is that you need, that will be an attraction. And then link up the satellite towns with the city center with light rails, that will ensure that the attraction to drive your car does not arise.
The Abuja Light Rail System is envisaged as a solution to the gridlock by the FCT administration. However, the project, which has commenced some form of operation, is still not addressing the situation because it has limited access into the city centre. At the moment, 42.5 kilometers rail line can only commute from the central business district to the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport on a 28-kilometer stretch.
At a time when it's becoming increasingly difficult to adequately manage over 40 million tons of waste generated in Nigeria annually, 28-year-old artist Komboye Eugene sees prospect and is contributing his quota creatively. The graduate of art from the Federal Polytechnic Auchi in Edo State has chosen to reinvent waste and change it the way we see it. Our correspondent Chris Olems has this report.
Every artistic expression comes with a message, and the choice of how to share the experience resides with the messenger. Rare materials to send such messages as hers, some resort to the waste bin. Eugene Komboye belongs to that class. He picks up discarded flip-flops from dump sites in Abeokuta where he resides and turns them into beautiful works of art.
The lifespan again of this material is maybe a year of 6 months, and people will have to throw them away. These materials affect our environment because they go on to kind of block our drainages and what have you. So now I take these materials and I recycle them, I cut them to produce my own art.
Once the materials arrive his workspace, he sorts them out by color, washes, and then cuts them into tiny usable bits for his palettes. One by one, he sticks them onto his canvas, observing the principles of depth and light.
No picture is flat, and every picture have a kind of a dimension of dark, light, and these are the things that brings out the form of everybody.
Eugene says sourcing for materials, though free, comes with its challenges.
We live in an environment where many things are happening. You just don't trust people. So I've been confronted quite a number of times. People have been asking me, what do I do? Because people might think I'm a ritualist. You know, this is something that people have used. So, but my own way out is to show people what I do. Because most times I am with my device where I have pictures of what I've done in time past, maybe pictures of when I'm working with them, and that's my way out.
For some of his colleagues, Eugene's works describe the perfect twist of nature.
Things will look like trash in society are what he uses to, bring out this beautiful art piece.
The so-called, top leaders, politicians, the rich ones in the environment collect these works from him and hang it on their works.
While the country continues to seek creative and impactful leadership, the message here is that if we treat even our dump sites right, we might one day mine diamonds. What is trash to one could be cash to another. And Eugene Komboye has demonstrated this through his work of art. Chris Olems, Channels Television News.
Security matters now. Another set of special forces and integrated combat operatives of the Nigerian Air Force has graduated and ready to be deployed to confront security challenges across the country. The Chief of Air Staff, represented by the Chief of Training and Operation, Air Vice Marshal James Gwani, is giving assurances that more resources will be deployed for better operations of the service. He was speaking at the graduation ceremony, which held at the Nigerian Air Force Base in Bauchi.
The Nigerian Air Force began training its own special forces
to protect its assets in frontline units in 2016. Since then, the service has trained 1,416 special operatives, both home and abroad. Today, another 149 special operatives shall be graduating and will be deployed to various operational theaters all over the nation to be at the forefront of the war against terrorism and other internal security threats. I would like to inform this distinguished audience that in the spirit of interagency cooperation in the conduct of military operations, the Nigerian Air Force has continued to partner with sister services and other security agencies for the conduct of various training courses. The latest of these is the Integrated Combat Operations course, which is geared towards acquainting members of counter-terrorism units of security agencies with skills necessary for conducting tactical military operations.
And talking about military operations in Bauchi State, the police say they have killed 2 bandits in a gun battle in Riga Forest at Duguri in Alkaleri local government area. The State Commissioner of Police, Abiodun Alabi, explained that his men carried out the operation during a routine patrol along the forest areas, which also led to the recovery of arms and hard drugs. The Commissioner mentioned this while parading suspected kidnappers and armed robbers at the command's headquarters. And officers and men attached to the Zone B Strike Force team of the Nigerian Customs Service have arrested several suspected smugglers and intercepted contraband estimated at over 786 million naira. Some of the seized items include bags of rice, cartons of tomatoes, bales of used clothes, shoes, as well as vehicles. The unit coordinator, who addressed journalists in Castina, explained that the items were intercepted in 10 northern states in the first quarter of the year. We return to Bauchi State, where the Governor Bala Mohammed is asking the EFCC to investigate the award of contract for the Soromia Road, which has not been executed, as he believes the money for the project was misappropriated by the previous government. Speaking during the flag-off of another road construction performed by the Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde, Governor Mohammed asked the EFCC to probe any corruption in the award of such contracts.
Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde hit the road for more than 250 kilometers from the Bauchi Airport to Itas in Bauchi North to perform the groundbreaking ceremony for construction of Itas-Gadao Road. The 24.5-kilometer road is a difficult terrain and was awarded at 8.5 billion naira. Governor Makinde appreciates the bold step taken by the Bauchi State Governor.
Well, as an engineer, I appreciate the challenges of building roads in areas where the topography is swampy. So I must say well done to my brother, His Excellency Bala Mohammed.
Governor Mohammed assures his special guest that the project will not be abandoned and takes time to explain to the communities why the Soromia Road project has not been restarted.
Those who perpetuated, who encumbered on that procurement are members of the APC and are even occupying elected and appointed offices. We are calling on the EFCC and ICPC to make sure that they investigate what we have forwarded to them on Soromia Road.
The construction of this road is expected to ease transportation difficulties of benefiting communities, and they are excited about it as the contractors promise to deliver within the stipulated 24 dry months.
We are very, very happy because of the previous governments didn't do it, but now we have it. We have this road.
It is imperative for all of us to acknowledge the positivity of governance while it is taking place.
On their way back, the entourage stops at Ningi in Bauchi Central to perform another groundbreaking ceremony on the Arinja Balma and Nasaru Township Road. This time it was done by Senator Abdul Ningi. Governor Makinde also received the traditional title of Barden Yama of Katagum, which means the protector of the kingdom from Western aggressors.
Ticket racketeering at the Nigerian Railway Corporation appears to be getting worse. That's despite efforts to curb such practice perpetrated by some Nigerians in collaboration with the staff of the corporation. The Minister of Transportation, Mr. Chibike Amechi, raised this concern during the briefing by the ministry in the nation's capital, Abuja, warning those involved to desist from the action. According to the minister, the federal government will soon begin work on some rail projects, explaining that funding is still a major challenge.
If you match ID to the purchaser, then there will be no problem. But you see, when they want to breach it, they won't ask you where is your ID. So I hear that they sold the tickets that they buy for 2,500 during Easter. They sold it for 10,000 naira. Imagine what the man would have done with his 7,500 naira if he got to Kaduna with 2,500. That's quite unfair. They should not bring me back to come to work at Edu or Kubwa. They should not. We put a system in place, and that's why it is important that Nigerians know that our Nigerians are smart. I don't know how God gave them that smartness. Everybody was shouting, electronic ticket, we've done it now, so we should go and sleep. They are breaching it every day. They go and buy the ticket. They buy as much as 10, 15, and then I suspect they compromise our staff not to ask for ID, because ID is required for you to buy the ticket. So when they buy in bulk, they come and sell. But if the staff of Nigerian Railway Corporation insists that every ticket must match the identity, then they won't do it. And you need to know the benefit. The benefit is not only because you're trying to eradicate ticket racketeering. Security is essential. A man who may be a bomber may be given a ticket that does not belong to him, and he bombs. And then we're in trouble. So we must match the ticket to the face carrying the ticket so that we don't run into security problems.
Let's head for the north to Borno State, where the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation is working with the state government to establish gas power plants to solve the protracted blackout problems in the state. The blackout followed the vandalism of power towers by insurgents cutting off Borno from the national grid since January this year. The Group Managing Director of NNPC, Mr. Mele Kyari, led the delegation to the Governor of Borno State, Babagana Zulum, for talks on Friday. According to him, there's a lot the NNPC and the state government can achieve together as value chain partners. Governor Zulum welcomes the partnership, which he believes will ease the agony of the people who have suffered untold hardship since the power crisis began 3 months ago.
We're here to join you to resolve power problem in Borno State, and particularly in Maiduguri metropolis and environs. And the easiest road to that is to deliver gas to power and ultimately to industries. And we saw the opportunity and the challenge to support Borno State because of the very obvious challenge we have with our power supply situation today in the city. We and our partners on the value chain have talked to each other, and we think it is very possible to establish a dedicated power plant in Maiduguri which will serve the current needs and potentially supply power to other neighboring cities and even countries ultimately.
Today's event can change the entire narrative of our own state. Power is very essential. With power, we can reduce the magnitude of the insurgency, because millions of people are earning their means of livelihood because of power. We have no any other alternative than to source for other solutions rather than the grid lines, because it's very difficult to guard all the faults. It's very difficult.
And let's find out what's happening in the world of business. Teniola Shobowale is standing by.
Thanks a lot, Melinda. Welcome to Business News. The federal government says it has established a regional mining project across the 6 geopolitical zones of the country in order to harness the potentials in the mines and steels industry. According to the Minister of Mines and Steel Development, Mr. Olamilekan Adegbite, the project hopes to reduce the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and kickstart an economic recovery. He adds that the ministry analyzed each zones and its strength to select states with enough minerals and harness its potentials to increase revenue and export base. He stresses that a lot of work has gone into the project, and the government has also involved private sector players to ensure that the initiative achieves its full potentials. In continuation of its mandate to grow the nation's economy through the introduction of intervention programs and policies, the Central Bank of Nigeria is asking Nigerians in Sokoto and Kebbi states to key into its diverse intervention programs for the economy to create wealth for themselves. Speaking after a meeting in Sokoto State tagged Promoting Financial Stability and Economic Development, the Acting Director of Corporate Communications explains that the bank's credit facilities comes with low interest rates and can be accessed by all Nigerians.
What we are here for today is to sensitize people of the programs, the policies, the interventions, the initiatives of the Central Bank of Nigeria, to tell them what these things are and how they can, as a people, benefit from these programs, because these things are meant for them. And so we expect that they will be in a position to access these programs and interventions. Otherwise, then there is no need for the program.
And now Tier 1 lender Guaranty Trust Bank PLC has announced a dividend payout of ₦3 to its shareholders for the 2020 financial year. According to GTB's Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Segun Agbaje, the amount is the highest payable by the bank amid the COVID-19-induced challenges last year.
Of the company for the year ended December 31.
It's the 31st annual general meeting for Tier 1 lender Guaranty Trust Bank PLC
and the company's articles of association.
Present to take part in the release of the financial statement for 2020 are a few board members and some shareholders in line with the COVID-19 protocols. Rendering accounts is what is expected at a forum like this, and so they get down to the business of the day.
Auditors and statutory audit committee thereon.
GT Bank PLC announces ₦3 dividend of the 2020 financial year.
That our company had paid interim dividend in the sum of 30 kobo per ordinary share for the half year ended June 30, 2020. Directors are proposing the payment of an additional sum of ₦2.70 per ordinary share as final dividend, bringing the total dividend to be paid for the 2020 financial year to ₦3 per ordinary share of 50 kobo each.
Major income statement shows the gross earnings for 2020 stands at 455.25 billion naira compared to 2019, which was at 435.307 billion naira, with profit before tax at 2.8% higher than 2019 figures at 238.10 billion naira. Similarly, the company's profit after tax rose by 2.3% in 2020 at 201.44 billion naira from 196.84 billion naira reported in the previous year.
The annual report is attractive and understandable to the layman understanding.
The managing director takes time to appreciate the shareholders and touches on some of their concerns, stressing that the 3 Naira dividend is the highest paid by GT Bank.
This is the highest dividend Guarantee Trust has ever paid. We've never paid 3 Naira before, so thank you very much for your support. Timing is not what is relevant in setting up of a holding company. What is relevant is that you do it properly and that you execute flawlessly, and that when the holding company is set up, it is profitable.
Guarantee Trust Bank PLC is a multinational financial institution that offers online and internet banking, retail banking, corporate banking, investment banking and asset management services, and has its footprints beyond the African continent.
Nigeria produced 1.57 million barrels of oil daily in March, surpassing February's production by 30,000 barrels, and that's according to latest report by S&P Global Platts. According to the report, Nigeria and several other members of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and their allies exceeded their oil production quotas by 450,000 barrels per day in March, signaling a steady rise in crude oil export. It adds that Nigeria, which recently improved its compliance, also produced 70,000 barrels per day above its quota. The report says that OPEC plus OPEC's 13 member countries pumped 25.20 million barrels per day in March, a rise by 340,000 barrels from February. And that's business news tonight. It's back to you, Melinda.
Many thanks, Teniola. And for the latest in the world of sports, here is Kayode Alayode.
Welcome to Sports News. Thank you, Melinda. Kenya's Emmanuel Naibe and Ethiopia's Meseret Dinke have emerged as the winners of the 2021 edition of the Access Bank Lagos City Marathon. Both athletes received $30,000 each as prize money.
The race begins with just 300 elite athletes after the organizers trimmed the number from 10,000 owing to the COVID-19 protocols. Expectedly, the East Africans set the pace at the turn of each landmark of the 42-kilometer race in both the men and women's categories.
The men's race, still a one-horse race, as it's been.
Few kilometers before the terminal point, Kenyan Emmanuel Naibe pulls away from the rest of the athletes, while the women's category, Ethiopian Meseret Dinke, calls the shots.
And she's just, she keeps increasing her pace.
Very determined.
Naibe crosses the finish line in a time of 2 hours, 15 minutes and 1 second to emerge champion, ahead of Ethiopian Derese Geleta and Demiso Gudeta. Dinke posted a time of 2 hours, 28 minutes and 51 seconds to reclaim the title she won 2 years ago. The Access Bank Lagos City Marathon is a World Athletics Silver Label race, and the sponsors are pleased with this year's competition in spite of the lack of fanfare caused by the COVID-19 restrictions.
We must get better so that we can compete globally with anybody around the world, Kenyans, Ethiopians, whatever. So it's a lot of dedication. So we just need to create an environment that allows our citizens to be able to do better.
Next year should be much bigger. Today was abbreviated because obviously we're in a COVID pandemic and things have been a little difficult and things have been a little, let's say, stressed. But to show that Nigerians and Nigerian spirit remains resilient, we had to do this marathon. So COVID will not win. We'll keep doing what we do, obviously with guidelines and safety and all of that in mind.
Naibe and Dinke got the golden prize of $30,000 each for their impressive performance at the race.
In another event, Team Delta's Grace Nwokocha has won the 100 meters women's final at the ongoing National Sports Festival in Benin City, the Edo State capital. Nwokocha clocked a time of 11.42 seconds to win the keenly contested race. Joy Udo Gabriel, representing Lagos, came second with a time of 11.44 seconds, while Tima God Bless from Lagos ran a time of 11.61 seconds to finish third. Meanwhile, Enoch Adegoke of Edo State has emerged winner in the men's 100 meters. Adegoke crossed the finish line with a time of 10.28 seconds. Team Edo also claimed silver in the race with Alaba Olukunle, who ended the race in second position with a time of 10.29 seconds, while Jerry Jakpa of Lagos came third with a time of 10.32 seconds. In other sports, Rivers State Stella Kingsley completely dominates the snatch, clean and jerk class to claim all 3 gold medals on offer in the 49 kilograms category of the women's weightlifting event at the National Sports Festival. In the snatch, Kingsley lifted her first attempt without struggle, failed in the second, but bounced back in the third to win gold. In the clean and jerk, she was in a class of her own, lifting the 92, 200 and 105 weights effortlessly. And in the English Premier League, a brace from Stuart Dallas ensured 10-man Leeds United beat runaway leaders Manchester City 2-1 at the Etihad Stadium. City predictably dominated the game, but Marcelo Bielsa's men gave their all to earn a priceless away win, taking them above Arsenal on the league table. Trent Alexander-Arnold scored an injury-time winner as Liverpool came from behind to beat Aston Villa 2-1 as they end a run of 6 consecutive defeats at Anfield. In the last game of the day, Chelsea hammered Crystal Palace 4-1 at Selhurst Park. That will be all in sports news. Many thanks for watching. Back to you, Melinda.
Many thanks, Coyote. News just reaching us says insurgents suspected to be members of the Islamic State West Africa province ISWAP have attacked humanitarian facilities in Damasak, a town in Borno State. Witnesses say one of the United Nations facilities in the state was affected, as well as some international aid organizations there. A source in the military confirmed the incident to Channels Television, although he said the insurgents were engaged by the Nigerian Air Force jets. The attack is the second in 2 months, affecting one of the United Nations' 9 hubs in the country. On the international scene, the Prince of Wales has paid tribute to his father, the Duke of Edinburgh, saying that he and the royal family will really miss him. He says Prince Philip, who died at Windsor Castle on Friday at the age of 99, was devoted to service. Buckingham Palace has announced that a national minute silence will mark the start of the Duke's funeral next Saturday, April the 17th at 3 p.m. at St. George's Chapel in Windsor.
Prince Philip, the late husband of the UK's Queen Elizabeth II, will be laid to rest on Saturday, April the 17th, in a ceremony that will be low-key by royal standards due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Only 30 people will be in attendance. Members of the public have been asked not to attend any of the funeral events in line with the public health advice. Despite this, people around the United Kingdom have been finding ways to pay their respects, with long queues forming at Buckingham Palace. Also paying tribute to his late father, Prince Charles, the heir to the British throne, says he will miss him enormously.
My father, I suppose the last 70 years, has given the most remarkable, devoted service to the Queen, to my family, and to the country, and also to the whole of the Commonwealth. And as you can imagine, my family and I miss my father enormously. He was a much-loved and appreciated figure. And apart from anything else, I can imagine, and we're so deeply touched by the number of other people here and elsewhere around the world in the Commonwealth who also, I think, share our loss and our sorrow. And my dear Papa was a very special person who, I think, above all else, would have been amazed by the reaction and the touching things that have been said about him. And from that point of view, we are, my family, deeply grateful for all that. It will sustain us in this particular loss and at this particularly sad time.
Earlier, salutes were held across the nation as batteries fired 41 rounds at 1 round per minute at Windsor Castle, the Tower of London in the capital, Edinburgh Castle in Scotland, and at sea, amongst other locations. Australia, a Commonwealth nation, also paid its respects with a gun salute outside Parliament House. The United Kingdom is officially in 8 days of mourning, as announced on Friday, and there will be other tributes to the Duke till he is laid to rest on Saturday.
And the main news again. Resident doctors today suspended their nationwide industrial action following their discussions with the federal government yesterday. Both parties rose from their meeting expressing satisfaction with the agreement reached. Also today, suspected ISWAP members attacked 8 facilities in Damasak town, Borno State. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Melinda Akinlami.